Hey, Lee with LG Speed and Custom. In this video, we are working on Felipe's 46 Ford, ripping all this stuff out. We're gonna put the flathead and straight axle back in. No, I'm just kidding with you. We're just gonna paint the firewall and paint the frame. First of all, before we even get into this video, I just want to apologize for the audio. My mics, I had two mics and they both died. So they went in for warranty repair. Not sure when I'll get them back, hopefully soon. But in the meantime, I don't have a mic, so I'm just like talking really loud, and hopefully you guys can deal with it. Again, I apologize. Back on Felipe's car, last video we did on this, we tucked the back bumper in. And on that note, we're pretty much done all the heavy fabrication on this car. So it's time to blow it all apart. We are gonna be pulling the small block Chevy back out, transmission back out, steering column back out, front suspension coming right apart, and then we're gonna paint everything. The firewall, Felipe wants to refinish this firewall back in the original color. We're just gonna go from pretty much this line down and from this edge to this edge. So this will still be original patina and this will still stay patina, the outside, but the firewall is gonna be fresh, shiny, and new. Frame rails, we're gonna paint those, probably a semi-gloss black, and then the control arms, spindles, brakes, and all that stuff, we're gonna powder coat. So basically what this video is just a tear down, again, tearing down all the stuff we just did. Once it's out of there, we can final weld everything. This header that had to go around the steering here, we can final weld that. Our motor mounts, I believe, still need to be welded on the very back side. And we had to put this little gusset in here. It's got to get welded on the top edge here. But once this is out of here, we can do all that. You'll notice the fuel door is not on the car anymore, and that's because I removed it and took it down to my local paint and body supply shop and supplied them with the fuel door plus this paint code right here, M3983, which I Googled and found a PPG and a base F match for those codes. So between all those codes and the fuel door, Mike is going to match this in a single stage, probably a urethane enamel that we can spray on here. So I did that ahead of time so that he's got a couple days to figure out, get an exact, perfect concourse, or close enough, paint match to the firewall so that once we get this out, we're pretty much ready to go. We're not waiting on the paint shop. I think the first thing we're gonna start with is we'll get our steering out of here. Basically, I'm just going to take it apart in the reverse order that we built everything. So the last thing we did was the steering. We'll pull those out, and then we can probably get the header out. And I can't remember if it was the video when we put the headers in or the last video when we tucked the back bumper, but we were talking about Felipe wants these pipes to come out under the fender, and I wasn't sure if we were going to put a flange on here or just extend the pipes. And I've decided to do the flange because when I mocked, I just took a straight chunk of pipe and mocked it up. And if I come straight off of there, I think I'm going to be too low to the ground. It's going to come out right about here. So I want them to probably have a curve on them and come up so that they come out right underneath the bottom of the fender, which will be a lot easier to do once the fender is on. So we'll just do a flange on here. And then when this all goes back together and the front clip is on, then we can worry about that at that time. The flange we can do on the bench. It doesn't need to be on the car. So yeah, we'll start with the steering, get the steering out of there, headers out of there. Well, the headers and the engine will probably have to come out at the same time, but we'll do the steering. Engine, we've just got our engine mounts right here to undo. This is the LG 283 mount. If you need one of those, it's on my website, lgspeedcustom.com. Get that out of there, and then inside, I think the tow board's in it right now. Yeah, we got the tow board in here. So in there, we've got the transmission mount that we built. It will have to come out, and then our engine and transmission out it goes. This is all taken apart. I have labeled the ends. This end is R for rack. And this end is C for column. And that way I know, because they're not the same length, one's a little bit longer than the other. Oh, they're really close. But yeah, just I don't know if they'll work the other way around, but just to avoid confusion, I'm just going to label them. So I got some stamps here. We'll stamp them because obviously once we paint this, that's going to disappear. R. C. The last thing we're going to do to these steering shaft pieces is you can see where the set screws from the U-joints have marked the metal. And I'm going to drill this way through, all the way through, because we've got these long set screws which go all the way through. So that way they'll have a hole that goes into, like, we'll thread it into there and it'll go all the way through there. And when it's Loctited in, it'll stop it from ever sliding out. So on the actual steering column itself, we did this, but I drilled and tapped it. And I think these ones, I'm just gonna drill it a little bit bigger and not tap it, but just have a hole that this like goes through nicely. Only because when I drilled and tapped the steering column one, getting it to go back in was a little bit difficult because we're threading into here and then threading into that as well. And if it's not perfectly 110% lined up, it's difficult. So we'll just drill it a little bit bigger so that it still threads into here and tightens everything up, but it doesn't actually thread into here. All right, these are done. Just gonna double check this to make sure that it's a 5/16 hole that I drilled in there. Just want to make sure that it works. Oh yeah, it's not even like tight yet, and this is rock solid. It doesn't even wiggle. So there we go. These are officially done. The other nice thing about drilling this hole is now we have something to hang it off of when we go to powder coat it. So we'll put these in there, steering U-joints, and then these we'll put in another pile because they're going to go upstairs to get powder coated. Motor mount time. All right, engine is out. So we're gonna be painting from this line down, from there into there. I think we'll probably take the steering column out just because it'll make it a little bit easier. This is the vacuum hose for the wiper motor. That's the word I'm looking for. It's early. It's Tuesday morning, bright and early. Yeah. I got the paint from Lordco yesterday. I haven't looked at it yet. So let's see how they did. I think Crystal mixed all this. Pretty close. I think that'll work good for the firewall. I mean, the nice thing about it being a firewall and just painting that little inside piece is it's not like it's going to be directly up against, like, you know, if you painted a door and then bolted it on and it was next to the cowl. So I think it'll be okay. Cool. Now, do we keep tearing down or should we paint everything? The weather is supposed to be really crappy starting tomorrow. So I think maybe try to paint the firewall today because it's supposed to be nice out today. So I was thinking about moving the car outside to spray it because I don't really want to spray in here, but I don't know. We'll see how the day goes. It's a lot of work to get it off these wheel cribs and down on the ground, but it's also a lot of work to mask everything in the shop so that I don't get overspray on everything. I was just about to pull this steering column out when I got a mail delivery from Justin at Adventures in Rust. So a few months back, Carl Fisher from Make It Custom called me up and was all like, hey, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know, what are you doing? He's like, we're gonna chop a 51 Meteor for Justin from Adventures in Rust. You wanna come along and help out? I was like, sure. So I went over to Carl's place, you know, just a quick 4-hour drive to get there, and spent the weekend, and we chopped Justin's Meteor. So Justin has been documenting the rest of his Meteor build on his channel, Adventures in Rust. So go check it out. He's doing some pretty crazy things with this Meteor. So anyways, go check him out. Tell him LG sent you. And back to the steering column. Thanks for the stickers, Justin. That's awesome. Steering column out. Ugh. Before I start sanding this firewall, I'm gonna just take some wax and grease remover and a Scotch-Brite and just very thoroughly clean it because this car is really oily. And I don't want to like sand that oil into the paint. I'm not planning on stripping the firewall. We're just gonna sand it and then seal it. All right, this is all prepped and ready for some sealer. So I'm gonna start masking it up now. I hit it with the DA sander with some 320 and then did all the nooks and crannies that I couldn't get with the sander by hand with 320, and then gave it a once over with a red Scotch Brite pad. I went all the way down to our bottom edge there. Probably won't be able to spray it today because it's already like 2:30, but the weather I think is going to be okay tomorrow, so fingers crossed. I don't have a paint booth because I don't really paint very often, hardly at all. So when I do spray stuff, I just wait for a nice day and spray it outside. All right, we're outside. I'm gonna cover this with some plastic. The sun's starting to come up. I think we got a good window to spray this. There's 3 coats of sealer on there. We'll let this sit for, I don't know, half an hour, 40 minutes or so, because it's a little cooler than optimal priming conditions. And then we'll mix up some paint and spray it. Paint time. So this is Delfleet Essential Single Stage, made by PPG. This is mixed 6 to 1 to 1, which is 6 parts paint, which we're just coming up on now. Which is probably, that's a lot of paint. We probably don't need that much, but oh well. 6 parts to that, to 1 part to this, which is hardener, and then 1 part this, which is activator. What's the difference between activator and hardener? I have no idea, but I'm not a chemist. This is what they told me to use, so that's what I'm going to use. You can reduce it up to 10% if you want, but I don't think we need to because it's chilly out. Mix thoroughly. When you're done mixing thoroughly, mix it a little bit more. So it's been probably about 40 minutes now, and this is looking really good. And the sun's out. All right, there's 3 coats on there. It looks good. So we're gonna quit right now, even though we've still got some paint left over, because I don't want to risk getting a run in it, and 3 coats is plenty. Well, it's Friday morning. Wednesday, we sprayed the firewall. I let it sit all day Thursday. And today, we're going to start on the frame. Suspension's going to come off. Got to finish our welding. We got to weld along the top of here. We got to weld the backside of our motor mounts. And then our X-member that we had to open up for the Turbo 350 transmission pan. We're going to just clean the backside of that up and weld it up. Degrease whatever grease is left on this frame, which in the X-member area is a lot, and then we'll put some black paint on it. So when I hacked all this out to get the Turbo 350 in, I welded in these pieces, and I welded them from the backside because there was a transmission in the way. So now the transmission's out, I'm just going to weld up all our spots where I couldn't quite get it before. I just cleaned everything up with the grinder and made my edges a little more nice, less jagged, because again, there was a transmission in the way last time. Alright, the brake setup is all out, so that's all ready. Lux and I are taking the front end apart right now. Zach from Wilson's Builds he's hanging out today. Hey Zach. Hey. He is busting the rear fenders off because we're going to replace this old painted fender welting with brand new stuff. This is one of the awesome things about coilovers is when you undo the ball joints, the spring doesn't explode. So after I get the front end off, I wire wheeled and degreased this frame, which was super gross and messy. Zach's leaving. Bye, Zach. Look at this fender welting he put on. Isn't that great? Yeah, 10 out of 10. Anyways, thanks, Zach. Bye. So yeah, I wire wheeled and degreased this frame, which was super gross. Ugh. Covered the floor in plastic. I didn't film any of it because I had gloves on that were covered in gross stuff. And anyways, it's all clean now. So we're gonna paint it with some of this stuff. This is KBS Seal Rust Paint, which is basically like the same as Pour 15, but a different brand. And yeah, we're just gonna use this roller. And we got a brush for the corners. It's gonna be great. Let's put this right there and just do some happy little strokes. right, there we go. It is all black and finished 7 minutes before quitting time on Friday afternoon. How's that for killer timing? So we'll let this sit over the weekend. And on Monday, I guess we can start. I want to powder coat most of this stuff, which we can do right here in-house. Got a powder coating set up upstairs, so then we can start putting it all together. All right, Monday morning, all this stuff's dry. Happy with that. Let's start powder coating this stuff now. Got a lot of stuff to do. I'm going to try to do the calipers. I've never done calipers before, but it should be pretty straightforward. We'll have to pop the seals and stuff out and take the bleeders out. Control arms. So these use, I think this is like a Dodge Dakota control arm or ball joint. And I made a socket to get those out. I don't know if you can actually, I'm assuming you can probably buy this socket. But the first time I went to take these, oh, these aren't even tight. Okay, well, probably won't even need this socket to get them apart then because they were just hand tight in there. That's good to know. But yeah, they thread in and out. So we'll unthread those. We'll take the bushings out and yeah, probably going to do this in the reverse order that we took it apart. So as it all comes out of the powder coat oven, once it cools down, we can just start bolting it all back together. Alright, I sanded the control arms down just to get there was rust prints from my fingers on them, so I just sanded all that off. And then everything on this bench here is being cleaned and degreased, and it's ready to go. So we'll call this batch 1. Alright, we got everything all set up in the little powder coating booth here. As you can see, I've modified my oven system. I built a whole rack that you can hang everything off of and then just pick the rack up and slide it in. This is, it says Eastwood on it, but it's actually Columbia Coatings Chassis Black. Alright, my favorite part of powder coating is as soon as this cools down to the touch, we can go ahead and bolt it back on. These are ready to have bushings and ball joints put back on them. I've got the next batch ready to go, which includes the spindles. So I'm trying something I've never done before, but I don't see why it wouldn't work. The machined surface where the bearings sit, I have wrapped in some tin foil. And then this yellow stuff here is high heat masking tape because this gets up to 400 degrees. So I'm just going to keep powder coating stuff until we're all done. Everything is powder coated except for the calipers. And the reason I didn't powder coat them is because for the life of me, I could not get this piston to come out. I don't know if it's because they're brand new and it's just never moved before, but yeah, it wasn't coming out at all. So I did still pop all the rubbers and everything off, and I just painted them with high temperature caliper paint. So they should be fine. We're just gonna go ahead now and start putting bushings and ball joints and stuff back in and putting this thing back together. Got some energy suspension bushing lube on here, just so that everything goes together nice and doesn't squeak. Are we in all the way? Oh yeah, look at that, we're in all the way. Bam, easy peasy. I slid right in like butter. Ball joint time. I'm gonna put some blue Loctite on here so that it doesn't fall out, but you can still get it out when it needs to, when it's time to replace it. These are supposed to be torqued to, like, some say 125 foot-pounds, but other people say they strip before that. So I just do them until it feels right. Click. My socket slipped off. Did not hit me in the face, even though it looked like it did. Okay, that is done. One completed control arm. 3 more to go. These coilovers are, they got like dampening adjustable knobs on them, which I put on the inside because I think it'll be easier to access them from the inside once the spindle is on. Upper control arm time. On the upper control arms, if you're wondering which is the top and which is the bottom, because they're kind of symmetrical, the bottom has this little recess in here. So the top, you can see it's smooth. The ball joint goes in through the top, and that little recess is so that the rubber boot has, like, you know, it just kind of sits in there. Also, these cross shafts are directional. They have a little curve in them for the coil pocket. See that little curve? Just to go around the coil pocket for your adjustability. Spindle time. Front suspension is all done and back together. I get the calipers on, bearings are all packed and greased the ball joints, moisturized my hands. Everything's nice in there. And I just finished bolting the pedal assembly back in, and I used some excess grease from the wheel bearings on it, and it is very nice. I think we're at the point where we're ready to put the engine and transmission back in. Actually, I got a little ahead of myself. We got to finish welding this header up and paint some black on it before we can put the engine in. So we'll do that first, and then that can dry overnight because it's almost the end of the day, and then tomorrow morning we can put this in. All welded up, giving it a coat of header paint. And then we should be ready to go. I think this is the last of like the major fab. Well, it's the next day, and while I was getting ahead of myself by forgetting to weld and paint up that header, I also, literally as I was spraying it, realized that we're gonna make a flange for on here. So I drew this up on the old computer box here and thought it was gonna work great. So that is designed to be cut out of 3/8, but just to be on the safe side, I cut one out of 16 gauge just to see if it would work, and it does not. Because our pipes are not welded straight. If you take a straight edge along here, you can see we've got a gap there, touching there, touching, a little bit of gap. This one's not bad. This one is pretty big. So yeah, they're not straight, which, you know, in looking at it now, it doesn't surprise me. These were just bent on an exhaust bender and somebody welded them together and they look good, which is the important part. So I got to figure out how to do this, if I should keep my flange straight and see if I can manipulate the pipes to fit, or just come up with a whole new idea. I don't know. Well, what I do know is I'll probably end this video here because this header thing is going to turn into just basically a whole nother video. So yeah, there we are. We're almost where we started, only with everything painted. Firewall's painted, chassis painted, suspension is powder coated. It's all back together. I powder coated the motor mount as well. If you need one of these motor mounts, they're on my website, lgspeedcustom.com. Go get one. They're great. They work awesome. Sold a ton of them over the years. Anyways, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.